year 3 really with the Rock program, and I sat down with Mr. Robazzi in October when I was there, and we discussed developing a parts and engine plan for the West Coast. And basically, right before Christmas, we finally signed the deal, and I'm able to distribute the product as well from a parts and engine standpoint. And while in the beginning, and as you well know, as the guy who orders all the parts for Sweet Tech, I don't have a million of everything on the shelf. But will we get there? For sure.
Did you send my order out today?
It did not get out today. We did go through it. We do have most of the items. I'll call you tomorrow and discuss what's missing. But we started with the fast 100 moving SKUs. Obviously there's every engine has 200 plus SKUs in it, and there's always a couple that you replace literally once every 10 years. So I probably aren't going to have those items on the shelf yet.
Yeah.
But as far as the engine side, as pistons and rings and bearings and shifter, clutch packs and clutches and drive gears and all the stuff you need for all the single speed stuff. I mean, we have all that stuff. I mean, our first order was $100,000, and it's, it goes fast, right? So yes, we signed that deal. It's moving forward. It's a great addition to what we do. Certainly from the series standpoint, because we have our 40-foot trailer stocked with engines and parts. And I mean, I think I had 15 engines in the trailer at the start of the Challenge Americas weekend, and I think I brought home 2. So we're not only selling parts to keep the racers going and to keep the teams racing, we're selling engines right at the track for dealers to take home and sell to their next customer. So it's super exciting.
Yeah, well, and it's also nice is I on the podcast I try not to promote my day job too much, but it is nice that the currently the importer is in Florida. We place an order, it takes 5 to 7 days to get to California. It's nice that there's a warehouse on the West Coast. It takes 2 days.
Yep, and that was the point. That's the whole point. From tires 3 years ago, which we still do, to the engines and parts now. It's just being able to have the dealers be able to service their customers, and the end users. Because let's face it, we live in a just-in-time society nowadays. I mean, I'm going to sound like an old guy. Back in my day, but back in my day, I as an end user, I always had a couple of chains in my toolbox and a couple of throttle cables and spark plugs and tie rods and a steering shaft, because I knew I was probably going to bend one at least once or twice a year, but the current state of things, the Amazon society that we live in, they're just in time, and it's not good and bad. It just is. So we certainly, like you said, we need to have the stuff available, so the dealers, can get the stuff in a hurry and supply their customers, with the products in a hurry. So, that's the bottom line, and that was the reason for the decision.
Yeah, and again, as if the program's going to grow for everybody, they need that anyhow. They need that in place.
Mm. Oh, absolutely. It's part of the natural order of things.
Yeah, so let's switch gears for a moment. And so I personally didn't make it down to your race at Cal Speed. My boss was down there, so I was one of the many sitting on my phone at night, going through the results of the Saturday races, and all of a sudden, you had 2 or 3 classes that didn't have main events. Do you want to kind of give us for the ones that weren't down there, you want to give us some insight to that?
Sure. Here we go. The hard hitting interview. You're Geraldo now. You're getting the hard hitting stuff.
Yes.
Jay Saldo. It simply was a crazy confluence of factors that, hard to predict, right? So, Cal Speed is an interesting place to do business from a promotional standpoint because of all of their big corporate rules. I mean, Cal Speed, if people don't know, is on the property of California Speedway, right? Which is a gigantic corporation. I mean, the place was built by Mr. Penske and then sold, basically to the gigantic conglomerate that is NASCAR. So they have a lot of big corporate rules, and their number one rule with ambulances, you can only use their company, and it's, an exorbitant rate, blah, blah, blah. It's actually AMR, which is, we see them all the time at a lot of these events. And if their ambulance transports, back up, if their ambulance addresses somebody and that driver or a person in the paddock, whatever, the injured person needs to be transported, that ambulance has to transport. So you take the risk, and we all do it. We all take a little bit of a risk. That if that ambulance transports, the day is basically shut down for an hour and a half, because you have to take them to the hospital. You have to make sure the person's checked in, do all their paperwork, yada, 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 drive all the way back. So that process is minimal. At the least is an hour and a half. I mean, I've seen it be an hour and 18 minutes, but that would be, that's setting a qualifying record, right?
Yeah.
So, and the easy solution, right? It's always funny. I'm not saying it's funny, but after the event, you get well, how did this happen, and why didn't you have a second ambulance? The only way to solve that is to have parallel ambulances, two ambulances sitting on the property. And while it's easy as long as you can write the check, when the program was at 100 entries or whatever, adding that extra expense basically puts the program in the red.
So what would an extra ambulance cost?
Between $4,000 and $5,000 for the weekend.
For the weekend. So if you have 100 drivers, then that's going to be
50,
40 to 50
another
additional.
50. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
When this program, and this is the guarantee, and I'll go back to telling the story in a minute, but when this program, and it will, gets to that 160, 170 number, for sure we'll have two ambulances at Cal Speed. It's just I can't take that risk anymore.
Yeah.
But you add in our program, it's crazy. Challenge of the Americas had not had even a red flag in 3 years. Not an ambulance run, not a red flag. It was an unbelievable streak of good luck. I'll call it good driving, but let's be honest, stuff happens purely by accident. So it was good luck that we had not had a red flag in 3 years. And in this particular weekend, we had 3 ambulance runs. It was crazy. So
how are the drivers doing now?
Well, I'll get to that. Stop. Okay. Let me finish. you and your flow. All right. So you take a track where we're racing that has these rules, and you take 3 ambulance runs, and you take in the time of year that we race. Daylight savings time is this weekend, right? So the clock clicks up this weekend.
Yep.
Oh, my wife just corrected me. But the point is, we're within a week or two of daylight savings time. So we're at the very end of actually getting, it's not another hour of daylight. It's just another hour of usable daylight at the end when we really need it. Right. So we can't go late. Track doesn't have lights. We had 3 red flags after not having, a red flag in 3 years. It's just a crazy confluence of factors. Right. All of those drivers, the worst, they were all released that night. The worst one was a severely lacerated finger, where the finger was basically cut down to the bone that tore a few tendons or ligaments in the driver's finger. So they had to do a couple hours of surgery and reattach all that stuff, but nothing life-threatening. One was a bruised elbow, and the other one was just a shaken up driver with some bumps and bruises. So I'm a father. I'm not going to say that, we shouldn't have transported any of those, because that's the ambulance personnel. That's why I pay them to do their job. But nothing was life threatening, but we did transport, and we lost time. And that's why, the long story, that's why we couldn't finish the day on Saturday. The last ambulance run was in the cadet class, which there were 3 classes to go, and it basically happened right at 4:15. And with the sun, going down at 5:30, the day was done.
Yeah. Okay. And now all of that makes sense, because, like I said, I was over here in NorCal, going on Facebook and going on your page and going on eKarting News, and I was like, well, what's going on? Where's the rest of the racing? And then I think you actually put out a schedule on social media saying, hey, this is the revised schedule.
I'm I'm blessed that I have a super veteran team. I mean, my staff has been with me for years and years and years. It is crazy how long we've worked together. And the instant that second red flag happened and that transport happened, we knew, okay, we just lost this day. We have to figure out a way to squeeze 3 mains into an already full day the next day.
Yeah.
So we started a half hour early. We shortened the morning warm-ups from 8 minutes to 5 minutes. We shortened qualifying from 8 minutes to 6 minutes. And we were able to squeeze all the main events in, and then roll right into our regularly scheduled program, work through a shortened lunch. And by the time we got to the Sunday mains, we were back on schedule as if that had never happened.
Very nice. Now, what are some of the standout performances that happened that weekend?
Oh, we have we certainly had a few. I mean, Oliver Calvo is on an unbelievable run. He's doing double duty in 100 cc, which is our mixed engine class, and the Rock GP Senior. I mean, I know he won at least 2 main events in Tucson, maybe 3. He went 3 of 4 at Cal Speed, so he's on an incredible run. I mean, one where he came all the way from the back after a mishap in the first corner. So I mean, yeah, I gotta clap my hands to him. Jake French though put on a show. I mean, Hunter Pickett dominated in Tucson in the shifter class, and I don't know what Gary has figured out and what Hunter has figured out about Tucson, but Hunter swept our Tucson rounds last year and did the same thing in our opener in Tucson this year. And everybody's talking, man, Hunter's the guy. Well, Jake French decided Hunter wasn't going to be the guy at Cal Speed because he ended up winning both mains. Albeit both of them were on Sunday, even though the early morning one was Saturdays. We ran it on Sunday morning. He won both. And, the other part of our red flag situation is we had one more on Sunday afternoon, and we were almost to the point where we could not run our last 2 mains. And the only way to get through it, the ambulance rushed back. The sun was retreating as fast as it possibly could. We had to shorten the time. We only gave the 100 cc senior and the shifter seniors 10 lap finals because that's the only daylight we had. And Jake French led that shifter race start to finish. It ended in darn near dark conditions and ran 8 laps in the dark within the same tenth to win the race. It was unbelievable. It's, as a guy who's been around the sport for almost 40 years, I don't get surprised or impressed by too much anymore. And when I saw what he did that night, and it was night.
Still there? Did I lose you? Well, I think we lost Andy, so if everyone bears with me for a moment, I'm going to hit the pause button, and I will reconnect with Andy.